So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another book review session by the Bibliophile family. Today, we have Neha Dikshit ji reviewing the book Psychological Triggers by Peter Hollins. So, we talked about this book earlier as well, and it's an awesome and interesting book. So, we look forward to listening to you. Over to you, Neha ji.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you so much everyone for joining. This is my first book review. I have recently joined the group, and I am so excited to give a review on this book. And a little bit about why I chosen this book. So my husband recommended me this book, and I really liked it. He has read other books of Peter Hollins as well, and I really find it interesting and very to the point. So I decided to share with all of you. So we'll start now, okay? So, let me tell you brief about the author. Peter Hollins has studied psychology and peak human performance for over a dozen years and is a best-selling author. He has written a lot of books regarding psychology and human behavior. About this book, he published this book in 2020 during pandemic. So, a lot of times we act against our own interest unconsciously. We may think, no, that's not me. I am as logical and rational as they come. But we are still humans and we are subject to impulses and biases. So, this book is all about understanding the hidden parts of our brain which guide our behavior unconsciously. So, there are some other books of Peter Hollins there are so many books, but I have recommended few which I really liked. I today only I was reading How to Suffer Well. I really found the title very interesting. And these Control Your Thoughts, Build a Better Brain, The Lifelong Learner, How to Trick Yourself into Doing Things You Hate. The title is itself very interesting. I'm going to read it next. I haven't read it, but yeah, this is my next to-do list. So we'll start with there are 6 chapters in the book. We'll start one by one. So first, let's take a brief introduction of what are psychological, emotional, and social triggers. Psychological triggers are internal thoughts or memories that activate automatic mental and behavioral responses. Emotional triggers are intense feelings sparked by past experiences or unmet needs, even some childhood unmet needs. Social triggers happen when there are interactions in social situations that influence our mood or behavior. We'll cover it one by one in all the chapters. So, chapter 1 is about psychological triggers. Most of the time, we know what we should be doing in life, but our psychological triggers make us act against our own interest. We bypass active thoughts. Our rational thinking stops when we get triggered. So, modern human civilization has existed only for 6 to 10,000 years back. Our ancestors had less developed brains, working mostly for survival. It has become part of our DNA now. During our evolutionary years, our impulses, drives, triggers, and nervous system reactions has kept us alive, not our rational thinking. When there was danger in front of our eyes, there was no time to think. Action was required instantly. And as a result, we all take impulsive decisions without giving much thoughts, but then regret later. So that was our evolutionary brain. Next here. Risk detection. Humans have ability to identify potential risk. Psychological triggers are part of our evolution. Survival of the fittest, as we all know this theory. In today's world, we can analyze our risks in advance and give it thought and figure out solution. But that was not the case in the evolutionary times. In past, dealing with risk required instant judgment and decision. And that's why we developed some reflexes and gut feeling. Today, we don't need to go into that jungle survival mode. We have more time to analyze if our gut feelings are right or wrong. We often think that no, if I am feeling this, maybe it's correct, but that's not always the case. Phobias are also a form of psychological triggers. So we all have some kind of phobia. Some are scared of lizards and some are scared of water or height. We'll discuss that. So why phobias developed and what are they? Let's discuss it. So phobias are irrational fears of certain things or conditions. Roots of phobias are also in our evolutionary development. Danger is deeply hardwired in our brain. How phobias impact us? They make us react. As soon as we see a lizard and if we are afraid of it, we react, even if it's not harming us. So, phobias stop our rational mind and rob us of our free will. Phobias generate anxiety and fear and stop logical thinking. So, these are some kind of common kind of phobias. Acrophobia is fear of height. Aquaphobia is fear of water. Agoraphobia is fear of being in public spaces. Arachnophobia is fear of spiders and snakes. Claustrophobia is very common, fear of tight spaces. Even my husband has that. Aviophobia is fear of light. So it's a very fun fact I found in the book that the number of people who die in car accidents are thousands times more than the number of people who are dying from snake and spider bites. But still, we are more scared of snakes and spider than of cars. It's the answer is in evolution because we have been scared of snakes and spider for so many years that we are still have these phobias. Even if we'll not die today, we have so many uh, medical facilities for that if something happens to us. But still, we are more scared of that. We should be more scared of cars now in modern world. Next is fear. Fear is also a kind of psychological trigger. It's one of the most powerful trigger. It completely overrides our brains and sends us into action. During evolution, fear was our best friend to save our lives. During danger, quick action was needed for survival. But in today's time, danger is not intense and we can take time to think before jumping into action. Fear guards us, protects us. People who are afraid of water are less likely to die in drowning. Most of the people who die in drowning are the people who are not afraid of water and know how to swim. So, because they are not fearful of water. So, amygdala and limbic system are the parts of brain which deal with fear and anxiety. They control automatic subconscious responses. Amygdala detect threat and reacts. Some people who are highly reactive have enlarged amygdala due to certain past trauma or PTSD. So we have all have into interaction with these kind of people who are very reactive. So it may be because of their past experiences or the childhood. If their upbringing has been in a dysfunctional family where even their parents are not safe, so their amygdala part becomes enlarged and they are always on alert for fear detection. That is part of amygdala. If we are not careful and aware, we can let our fears control us completely. So, next chapter, social triggers. People around us influence us. We want to conform to them. If we go to office and everyone is wearing blue shirt, next day we will also wear the same color because we will feel left out. Yeah. So there is this thing that we want to conform to other people. There is no dress code, but something in your mind tells you to conform to people around you. So why we conform? We wanted to be liked by other people and not seen as outsiders. We believe more in other people's judgment than our own. When we get that validation from other people, we are more secure. We are all afraid of judgment and other people's reaction. That is the reason we conform. Next is how to say no. Just because we want to people please, we most of us aim to please. It's easy to say yes than saying no. We don't want to disappoint people and come out as rude. We want to be agreeable. We are afraid of conflict. That's why we are scared to say no. But there are some tips in this book. So, how to say no. So, some people take no as a sign of personal rejection, and we don't want to burn bridges. We like to be helpful, it feels good. That's why we say no. Yes, all the time. So if you want to say no, not use word I can't, use word I don't. Let's say someone asks you to eat something, eat chocolate. You say I don't like chocolate. Make it about yourself. So they don't feel rejected. That is one way. Second is simply be straightforward. If your relation dependent on you always saying yes, then it's not worth for a long time. Don't make excuses. Simple no is enough. Remember, it's okay to be selfish sometimes. It's okay to prioritize yourself. By saying yes constantly, you're not doing anybody any favor, not even yourself. Let's say you are invited to a party and you don't want to go. Just say, I want to and I was looking forward to, but due to certain circumstances, I can't. So these kind of there are a lot of examples in this book like this. Like I have tried to keep it precise. Question everything. So, how do we resist powerful lure of other people's perspective? How to ensure our independence so that we don't get impacted by others? Answer is by questioning everything. A questioning mind is a rational mind, which is exactly what we need to handle triggers. When questioning authority, check their credibility. Is their opinion genuine? What are their beliefs and values? And are they aligned with my values? So when we question, we don't get trigger or react and trying to prove our point. We don't do that. We just keep asking questions. We'll start next chapter. Emotional arousal. Emotions are intense experiences. They work against rational thoughts. We feel some kind of emotion 24 hours. We are even aware of it most of the time. We make decisions based on what's happening right now, based on kind of emotions we are feeling. That's the reality for us. Our emotional arousal can lead us to do regrettable behavior and decision. Extreme emotional arousal can set off our psychological triggers and can increase anxiety. Intense emotions can be both positive and negative, like fear, anger, hatred, can make us thoughtless. Such emotional response activate amygdala, which we discussed before, threat detector, and decrease function of prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is part of brain which is responsible for rational thinking. So when we are emotionally aroused, that part's functioning decreases and we get less control over conscious response and body go into battle, fight, flight or freeze response. That is the result of emotional stimulation. What is GABA? That was also a new term for me which I have read in this book only. GABA is gamma aminobutyric acid. It is main inhibitive neurotransmitter in our brain. Functions of GABA reduce activity of neurons, calm amygdala and limbic system which detect threat, reduce stress level and regulates emotional arousal. An aroused mind is an insufficient and harmful mind. It's crucial to remain calm to make rational decisions. Breathing exercises like box breathing can help you calm down and take your nervous system into control and reduce your fight, flight, or freeze response. So, GABA, that is the function of GABA. So, emotional arousal up to a certain point is actually helpful for us. An optimum amount of emotional arousal helps us in increasing performance and keeping us motivated. But high arousal can lead to anxiety and low performance. So, as we can see in this graph, when this is the arousal level on x-axis and this is performance quality. So when arousal level increases, our performance also increasing and reach a optimum level, and then with further arousal performance decreases. So when we are nervous, that is also a emotional arousal and we that increases our performance. If we are somewhat scared of what will happen in the exam, that will increase our performance. Yes. Next chapter is human drives. Drives not useful in the modern world, but dictate out of our actions. We have evolved, but these animal drives are still there, just like appendix, which are of no use for modern humans, but it still exists. Drive ensures we stay alive. Drives are subconscious and instinctual, like binging impulses. That is a human drive. Triggers that arise from these drive make us act illogical. Let's say hunger drive. When we are hungry, our glucose level gets down in the blood. When brain isn't getting enough glucose, it perceives as a threat. We become irritated and angry and prone to outburst. Even if there is enough food in the fridge and we can go to market anytime and bring some food, but the kind of reaction we'll give when we are hungry. So that is because of evolutionary brain. And binging impulses is also a result of human drives. Earlier, we used to binge upon whenever we found food in the wild. But now we have food, but we still love binging, right? So we already have the capacity to eat more than we need, because in during evolution we didn't have much food available. So whenever there was food, we used to eat more than our capacity, which used to last longer. But today it's not required, but still we eat. That's why in book Ikigai it's mentioned that only eat 80% of the capacity. Selfishness and self-interest. Our first duty is to look out for ourselves. Even most kind, selfless person will also do what he needs to exist before anything else. When we are secure and safe and our needs are met, then only we think about the others. Survival has been the reason for many warfares, attacks. If starvation is coming, we would prefer others to starve instead of ourselves. Our natural instinct is to raise our chances of living. That's why we are only kind when our needs are met. Otherwise, we become selfish. Pleasure principle we will discuss. It was given by Freud. We all know about Sigmund Freud. So we seek pleasure and avoid pain. That is the basic principle we all work on. So we, because we want pleasure, we eat tasty food. We study hard also because we'll get result after that, and that's why that is also a form of pleasure. We go to gym because we'll get healthy and fit. People will appreciate, and that's why that is also a form of pleasure. We go to school and work hard. This is all to get rewards. Every decision we make come out of one simple questions. Will this bring me pleasure or pain? Even animal work on the same principle. Even in case of emotional pain or disappointment, no mind stays in pain for a longer time. It starts seeking new pleasure. We follow the path of least resistance. We want to do least with greatest benefit possible. This is called seeking the path of least resistance. Why we do this? To conserve energy. During evolution, we didn't have much food, and there was like we have to travel miles to find food. So energy was very precious for us, and we are still doing that. We are conserving energy. We are sitting in bed, not burning calories. Next, hunches and gut reactions. Our mind relies on gut reactions and hunches. Hunches guide our decisions and judgment. Gut reactions are emotional response made with little or no information. We can't always trust on it. Mind want to make quick judgment and jump to conclusions. That's why we have hunches, but that is not always correct. We may say that okay, I have this gut feeling that it is right, but that's not always correct. That we'll discuss this confirmation bias. Uh, First, we'll discuss schema. Okay, what are schema? Schemas are, so we make model and map of information we are receiving. This is called schema. Schema developed throughout our lives as we keep learning new things. But with age, our schemas become more settled, because with age our minds get rigid. We're not even interested in a lot of new information. So that's why with age our schemas get rigid. Schemas can be developed by incomplete amount of information, and then we can carry that belief throughout life. That's why most of the schemas become settled in when we are in childhood age, right? When our minds are empty, we are learning new things. And confirmation, what is confirmation bias? It's also a schema. It guide our gut feeling, but can easily lead us astray and are reason for our stereotypes, prejudices, and wrong assumption. So our mind even confirm what we are thinking. We believe in certain stereotypes, and we believe it. We haven't questioned it, so we believe it so hardly that we are like, no, this is the right thing. Mind keeps giving us evidences also. No, you are thinking right. That is confirmation bias. What is cognitive biases? Biases are flaws in human thinking, logic, or emotion that influence how we process information right in front of us. Why biases exist? It is kind of mental shortcuts. It exists to make quick decision Purpose was speed and efficiency. Biases are not always correct. It's not rational. It impacts our rational decision making. Most of us never realize our biases. We keep believing decisions made by biases are correct. I also love to know about your biases after it. Okay. We prefer simple things that are easy to make, which are transparent, trustworthy, which can be understood easily. This is called cognitive fluency. We prefer easier information with which we can make comparison, which is familiar. So we fail to make rational evaluation cause of this. So in our minds, cognitive biases and cognitive fluency exist, which we are not aware of. Next chapter is free will and control. So it's a very important question. Does free will exist? Why do we do what we do? Our memory, our environment, past experiences, our upbringing, conditioning, beliefs, this all have so much power over us and authority over our brains and our emotions. So it may make us question am I doing anything out of free will? Some philosophers argue about the nature of our decisions, that we don't really have any free will. We are slaves to our impulses. We choose partner based on our values and beliefs. We form communities which share our values. We choose friends based on our area of interest. So we are unconsciously doing everything based on our upbringing, conditioning, and past experiences. Illusion of control. We love the illusion of control. When bad things happen to us, we try to make sense of it in many ways. We blame it on other people, circumstances, or luck. This gives us some level of control. It's difficult for us to accept how insignificant we are in grand scheme of things. But life keeps reminding us that time to time when we feel powerless against circumstances in our lives. Humans just don't like to feel that we are random molecules of carbon and hydrogen. It feels better to have an individual identity and a purpose of living. We're living in illusions. So, what are superstitions? We may think we are modern and not believe in any kind of superstitions, but we have got some superstitions as inheritance from our parents and the culture which we haven't questioned. For example, we all have heard of this superstition: if black cat crosses your path, stop and don't go that way. And if we sneeze just before you're going out, don't go that way. I have mentioned this example out of my experience. You all have will have different examples. And superstitions around days: don't do this on Tuesday or Thursday, right? Don't cut or wash your hair on this day, like that. And if one other example is, like, let's say I'm giving an interview, I'm wearing a particular shirt and the interview was successful, so I may label it as my lucky shirt and then wear it same on the next interview. That is also a superstition. We do this: okay, I wore this, my day was very good, I'll do it again. So what are the reasons of superstition? It's basically classical conditioning. We commit an act, we see an outcome, and we begin to correlate the two. Because of this correlation, coincidence, superstition get developed. Next is uncertainty hypothesis. When people feel complete lack of certainty, they seek to find a way in which they feel some level of control. Uncertainty is extremely uncomfortable and may lead to anxiety. Superstitions are not harmful. Positive superstition can improve confidence and reduce anxiety. Like if you are wearing your lucky shirt on your interview, you'll feel more confident. Negative superstition can distort reality. What is reactance theory? If we are told we can't do something, we immediately want to do it. If you tell children they can't jump on the bed or climb the ladder, they want to do more of what is forbidden. We want to be free and make our own choices. We don't want to be restricted. That is reactance theory. It is also utilized as reverse psychology. Tell people not to do something and they will do the exact opposite. Someone telling you you can't handle this situation and you will be tempted to do it just to prove them wrong, right? The children do it with parents all the time. Next is How to deal with having no control. The only thing that is certain in life is uncertainty. I really love this line. We make so many efforts to make our life certain and predictable. We want certainty in relationships, friendship with other people, but that is not always the case. So, solution to deal with having no control is accept the situation as it is. Letting go is important. So, what if plans you made for yourself didn't work out? You can always make new plans, dream new dreams, and have new desires. Second is reflect on the past. Find out what you did when you were in some kind of same uncertainty situation before and how you handled it. That will help you in dealing with the uncertain situation. Oh, I'm done. So I have tried to keep it precise. This book was also very thin, so now we'll discuss about our superstitions, our phobias, right? What our gut reactions, things you did based on your gut reactions. You thought, okay, I'm doing the right thing, but later it turned out your gut reaction was not right. If that has happened to you, right? You know, who all have binging impulses. So I'm not scared of snake, but I found their skin and all the reptiles very disgusting. I know they won't harm me, but still I like to maintain my distance with reptiles. I don't have any other fears that I was thinking. Yes, any questions, any others sharing will.
I can share if you are okay with
Yes.
it. I'm literally living in social anxiety in the moment. The reason is, so I told my husband in the morning, today we have a couples gathering, something like that, get together. So 4 or 5 couples are meeting, and it's my first couple gathering because my husband always says no to all these things, and I don't like it. The reason is that I never had, and I feel like it will spoil my relationship in some certain way. And I have seen people, spoiling their relationship due to all these couple gatherings and all. So today it's at like already started at 7 p.m. And my husband told me not to keep any meetings or not to be involved in any meetings at this time. But I told him no, no, I have a meeting, Neha is taking, and I showed the pamphlet also. See, I need to give him proof, na? So I was hoping he will take it till 9 p.m., to be very honest, so that I can make an excuse and I can skip. But you've wrapped up in 30 minutes. So I'm little disappointed. So anyhow, so that I'm literally very anxious right now. I'm literally sweating and I don't know how to control this. I am doing some breathing, but I'm not even liking food, to be very honest. I'm not even interested in what they have, made and what buffet it is. And to be very honest, to link with this book and everything, I guess you were coming to the reading sessions every now and then, and we were having conversation about this book. You were having some questions and we were discussing. So all these things are making sense now because you were putting some of the other prompt, very abruptly, and you used to ask us. So now everything is making sense. But I would really like to ask you, Neha, one thing I'm curious about. Um, all these things that you mentioned, obviously you can't show us the entire book, but they have given the author has given the solutions to these or therapy type name of therapies to these things, or not, like, is it like theoretical only or is it practical as well? How did you find this book?
So it was only theoretical. There's no solutions. It's only about to know what are the triggers and then question yourself. There's not it's not a therapy related psychological, well, deep psychological. It's not that. It's just basic top. It's very thin book. Only the whatever I have mentioned, na, that's it. The main major points I have covered. So it's not very theoretical.
Because to be very honest, this book, whatever you showed us in the PPT and whatever you said verbally, vocally, the all these things are really the main principle and basics of psychology. And if one reads it, obviously you would have read much more than me. So if one reads it, start reading such type of books, they will be at least having an understanding of their own self, not others, let alone others, like. So I feel like this is the book I'm looking for. I will definitely read in readathon. Thank you very much for introducing.
Thank you. So yes, from a solution point of view, we can find some other book or we can search about it. What are the solution? Because every other the different phobias have different solutions, I guess. Different kind of therapies available for that. It's more about making you aware of that these things exist, right? It's for everyone to read, not only for the psychological who are interested in psychology or something. It's for everyone, right?
Yeah, I feel like 90% of my problems are solved once I know that I'm doing it, once I'm self-aware. So I feel like even knowing theoretically would make a lot of sense.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, our mind keeps finding such things, na. If that would not have happened, we would not have focused on that kind of information. But I would also like to add when Zainab mentioned about social anxiety, so that also happens with me. I'm like in say social situation, I get very anxious at no, what will people think or right. So some extroverts are not very conscious about it. They're chilling. Other people can also share their phobias.
So, can I?
Yes.
Thank you, Nihaji. I think I made a right decision coming out where I was to attend even 15 minutes late. I think almost every slide I have some flavor of that in my only degree may vary. I was wondering what I have, what I don't have. I think it's good to know the names attached to it Now, at least awareness is what I know you gave me in last 20 minutes of what I heard you. So at least if you have an awareness, then I will figure it out. How do we, try to find a solution if I need to. Take an example of superstition. Even I had one jeans pant I always used to wear for every exam. Okay, till it torn, I was wearing it. At that time, tone was not considered a fashion. Okay. So confirmation bias, yes, I also do a lot of that. I guess each one of them in the slide what you mentioned have some degree varies, but thanks for giving that awareness. So I think particularly you gave that reason of the path of least resistance. I also wonder, sometimes I will take the longer route to achieve something. I feel that is a right way to do it. But when I need a support system always looking for path of least resistance. I think I got some sort of an idea today or a reasoning today why that happens in our brain. Thank you very much. It's really truly awareness session for me. Thank you.
We really have that jungle brain. We are not yet evolved. Modern civilization for very few years, some of the few thousand years only.
Exactly, I agree with you on that. Yeah. Normally we attach people why they do, why not to do it. Just having such awareness, we also start, respecting their views are. I mean, they're not wrong. Sometimes we try to put at least I try to put a lot of things in black and white. Or par type of a conversations I will go, but there's always an element of the gray in between their awareness and their understanding and things like that. Like what you just mentioned, our jungle brain is still very active. So very obvious lot of things. I also mistake people, when they're having a conversation with them. So I'm sure I'm also add this book for my list to read. So you did mention it a short book that's encouraging me. So I guess I can complete because Readathon has a number of pages and number of books to read, something like that. So I'm just making light comment, but definitely I'm going to read it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So I want to add 2 more things that so when I was reading this book, certain thing came to my mind. I had a friend, she was very reactive. I always have to calm her down. Later, she always used to do this. She gets triggered a lot, give these angry reactions. So, but then I came to know about her childhood. She has a very disturbed childhood, very dysfunctional family. And when I was reading this amygdala part of brain which detect threats, so such kind of people in adulthood, they're always on edge. Even slight disturbance, slight criticism from anybody or anything that upset them, they give this very strong reaction. You need to calm them down a lot. We all have such people in offices also, maybe in family also, some relative. They get trigger a lot. Right. And one more thing I want to add, how this arousal works. Sometimes, so it because of this neurotransmitter. So if in our brain that neurotransmitter is in less quantity or it's in unbalanced state, we may feel more stressed. Our capacity to absorb stress lessens. With age also that happens, I guess, because children are very active. Their brain chemicals are very in balanced state. Right? But in adults, generally brain chemicals get disbalanced because maybe if we are not active or we are taking on too much stress. So after a certain age, we need to work on mental health as well. For Rumiji, yes. Rumiji, what are your phobias and superstitions? The cat superstition, who all know this, that if black cat crosses the path. Any other kind of superstitions in your family?
Yeah, may I? So, first of all, thank you, Nehaji, for bringing out this unique subject. So, first of all, we don't believe in any superstition, and I don't have any fear or phobia, except I don't like insect being hygiene preference. So if I see any mosquito, I'll not sleep unless I kill that mosquito in my room. So that's the problem. And once I see any mosquito, I ensure that I kill that within a minute, not beyond. I'll not delay it beyond a minute. And I'm fortunate that I've always been successful. So jokes apart, coming to serious topic. This as I'm in sales, I always love to meet the challenging customers. I see many customers, who are very upset, or very bad tempered, or because they are financially sound, politically sound, so they always dictate, and their moods are always like that. But I love to meet them and understand, and make them calm, and so this helps me to understand and learn so many things. So that is how it helps. This sales profession is helping us to understand people, and once we calm them and we understand, then they become friends with us, very close friend, and further they help us a lot. So I always love challenges, and wherever more the difficult person, it is very good, because once you solve the issues with them, it becomes a very close bonding, and they will be like your best buddy type. So that is very interesting part. So thank you for that.
So that mosquito thing is, I was thinking it's OCD. And unless that is gone, we can't think of anything else. We're not scared or fearful of it. It's constantly you're thinking about it. And also, people skills are not in everyone. Even I'm not a very much people person. For some people it comes very naturally, right? They bond easily, right?
Nehajit, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Can I ask a question? It's not my comment, but just more of a question to understand a perspective.
Yes.
Can I?
Yes, yes.
So, in fact, you did, a couple of times mention about the superstition. What is your definition of superstition? Because I thought some of them in my life is a superstition, but after that, I'm able to find a reasoning behind it. Like you just give an example of a black cat. Probably I don't know the reason still. Are we convinced it's a superstition? Or how do you define superstition according to you? Or in the book, what is mentioned?
So it's about irrational belief only, that we
I mean,
believe in that. Even if there is reason, like the book said, uh, it's it's not always negative. It's not always harmful. It's just a strong belief. It is many times it irrational only. But even if we found some reasoning, it it's not necessary that it's very correct or it's very useful. Some people, like, they very strongly believe in superstitions that they can't function without it. If something like that happens, I'll not do that. And they're very rigid. So that should not happen, I guess. That we will call. So that is what I'm saying, na, that the people who believe in superstitions, they may have some imaginary reason or made believe reason also. They're justifying their superstition with evidences that something happened to them. See, we have example. So they have logical reasoning also, but that is also bullshit. That will be called superstition only. So I don't think if we can, like, scientific reason we can say, if there is some scientific backing. Otherwise, it's just super.
That yes, I think it is due to the lack of knowledge.
Yes. That's why in modern times people are less superstitious. Before there was no knowledge, people used to believe whatever the other person said or whatever they heard. They did not question anything. They were more fearful. So that's why they believe in that. Yes.
Monkey से monkey को दो.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I would like to know how you guys say no to people. I also have a tendency of people pleasing. So if I ask somebody, even if somebody asks something, it's very difficult for me to say no.
I I I always take help from Bhagavad Gita. Whenever I want to say no, so I will just quote भगवत गीता की भगवत गीता में ऐसा है इसलिए ये काम नहीं होगा बस. Generally I never say no. Generally, in cases if there, then I take. I first take consent of the person who is just in front of me. If he is convinced, then I say no. Otherwise, I always go with yes, whatever may be the circumstances. And 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 most of time it happens with me. The my staff asking for leave, especially this this October, November, December, this festival season now, and this March, April season. So that time the staff asking for leave. So that time I used to say no with convince them. That time I apply every rule left, right, from there, where. So I convince them, "Bolo bhai, I will not be able to spare you." But yes, if they have genuine reason, and kids also, so they demand so many things. So it is very difficult to convince them because they have a mummy power. So if I am not able, then I surrender.
Mhm.
I never quit because while saying no, so we must not opt the option of quit. I never opt quit. I surrender. Thank you.
Yeah, Nehaji, you're asking that how to say no. So first of all, you have to see if you can say no. But if you think that by saying no, it will affect, it will spoil the relation, or you don't want to say no, even though you want to say. So there you say yes, but diplomatically later on you can make it no. So that it's a win-win situation, means the other person also should not feel that you abruptly refuse or something. Later on make some excuse such that it will not affect also, and it will work in a diplomatic manner. That's how I think.
Yes. Because if we immediately say no, person will be like, oh, okay, he did not even put any effort. Thank you so much for sharing so many ideas.
But this is a continuous evolution. I'm saying no, it's very difficult in life. So as every day I'm learning some techniques too. Recently I learned with one of the person. This is what he suggests. Okay, he has his own dummy WhatsApp group. In that only he is a member. Whatever he wants to give a response, he will push the response or reaction to that. Like Palak also mentioned, I mean, we will take time and reread couple of times and we'll form what is the responses and come back to the response can be no, but will be much controlled to say no is. So adding a delay in between, as soon as the question has come, urge to say yes, no, or no, urge to say no. If you can hold it back, it can be much control. I'm trying to practice that as much as possible. So I try to buy in time. उसके time लगती है. I mean, we will waste some of our own time. Even though I made a decision, I should say no, but I'll still take time. I will come back again, probably sometime 5 minutes or a couple of hours later, or next day later, and things like that. Just I'm trying one more technique of saying no. So
Okay, I just want to add that some people are they really know that this is okay. She or he is very kind person. He will not say no, and they try to take advantage of that also. That exploitation wali mentality that people use you. That also happens. No, so that's why it's important to learn to say no. Okay.